by. And so I want to bring you back. But if people don't know this about Krueger and I've known you for just about, I got here like 2010, and I've known you almost from day one. We lived across from each other, basically across the street in Walnut Creek. You coached my son, who's now 20, going into his junior year in college. You coached him in one of his first years playing baseball. He was like 7 or 8 or something like that. So, I mean, Krueger and I go way, way back. We did a national ESPN show together on Sundays to wrap up the NFL. Not only our stuff that we've done at KNBR and done tons of pre- and post games for the 49ers. So, it's, we're not strangers. I've been on your show many times, which I really appreciate. And so to welcome you back officially on KNBR, not just 810 The Spread, nothing against 810 The Spread, of course, but to welcome you back on the airwaves of KNBR, a station you helped build through many, many years and iterations. I am honored. It is great to have you back, and I'm incredibly proud of you for what you have done when you were away from KNBR for a little bit, of what you've done to build the show that you've built. So not only is Krueger on the radio and whatever platform you're listening to, but he's also, you can check him out on YouTube and Twitch, because that's your background that you use for the Krueger Show. So welcome once again, my friend.
Well, first of all, Johnny, you're a pro's pro. We go way, way back.
Yeah.
I did coach George when George was maybe even too little to play on our team. Like he might have been like a year and a half younger than some of the other kids on the team. And
he was just starting out, and that was on, by the way, the Dodgers. You coached the Dodgers for people. That was a long time ago, but you had to wear a Dodgers hat. And I think I threatened you. I'm like, I will take a picture of you in that Dodgers hat. And you're like, no. Might have blackmailed you. But yeah, he got put into like the wrong league, and it was like his first or second year ever in baseball. And I took him out and put him on like a minor league team. I don't even remember, but I mean, seriously, he was like 7. I think he was.
He was so small, and I remember I saw a fastball like whiz by his face, and he didn't react, and I was like, "Oh my God, this kid is too young."
Yeah, he can't play. And he ended up playing high school up there, and
played varsity ball. I mean,
he ended up being a good player, but yeah, that was like his first year.
Varsity baseball at North State High School, and I'll say this, Johnny. I never said this to you. But when I would watch him on the field, I did take a little pride in being part of the tutelage that got him there, man. Because he was a good player, really good player. No,
and your kids were too, and they were roughly the same age. So we've known each other a long time. So it's great. And I speak for everybody, and I speak for a lot of the listeners. You've just done a tremendous job. You've had a tremendous career. You continue it, both here again, which is great, and we're going to have more and more of you on all of the shows. Oh, I got to have that. Hang on, Krug. Hang on. Can we get this? Can we get that? Oh, look at that. Look at that, Krug. Yeah.
Wait a second. Am I seeing it? I'm not seeing it.
Oh, Krug doesn't see it?
I'm only seeing myself.
I've got the Krug cutout right next to me. He can't see it? All right, I'll bring it up later. Those people in the on the thing can see it though, right? YouTube and Twitch?
Just don't bring up that Warrior jersey.
No, I don't. That's not the one I have. It's just this is the cutout from the pandemic that we have. We have the cutout from the pandemic. But we don't have the green shirt. All right, let's get to the 49ers. You do a tremendous job down there, and you're down there for all the camps and all these kind of things. So let's get to that before we'll end with Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk. But what are you expecting to see? Kyle said yesterday with Tolbert and Copes that he is going to play the starters a little bit. There's this, when we had 4 preseason games, we kind of knew how things were going to go. Nobody played in the first one, a little bit in the second one. Dress rehearsal was the third one. Nobody played in the fourth one. So it's kind of open to interpretation. The Raiders aren't playing anybody, but the Niners are going to start a lot of guys and guys who haven't seen any preseason action. What are you looking for, and do you like this approach by Kyle Shanahan?
Well, I kind of do, because I just think that, it's easy to say shut it down. And in reality, you know what's going to happen here? The same thing's going to happen here as happened last year. They're going to suit up everybody for the warm-up. They're going to have the guys warm up on the field. And then, like, right before the anthem, they'll be like in the press box, "Oh, the 49ers have announced that the following players will not be playing today." And there'll be like 5 guys who are all really good, and those guys won't play. So even though it's all, so I think this is the best way to do it in-house, right? If you say only this guy's going to play, that guy's going to play, then you got guys coming in. Maybe, should I play? Should I not play? And then it becomes this gigantic debate. So you'd say everybody, all the starters are going to play. You warm them up, and then you consult with before your coaches, and you say, okay, let's take these 5 or 7 guys and just not play them. They did it last year with Greenlaw and a few other guys. They'll do it again before this Raider game. As far as what I'm looking for, I think the starters are going to play maybe a couple series at most. Shanahan said maybe he told them get ready to play the whole first half. I think he'd rather play them like a quarter or a quarter and a half. But I think it's maybe a series or 2. That would be my guess for the number one offense and defense. I think what they'd like to see is just clean football, mistake-free football, some clean tackling, no busted plays. The quarterback get them into the right play at the line of scrimmage, play some clean football, and most importantly, try to get out of that thing without getting guys hurt.
Absolutely. Larry Krueger is joining us. Krueger's going to join us all throughout the season on all the shows, on the pre and the post-game shows. And, of course, you can check out his show on YouTube. Make sure that you check it out. He does a tremendous job. In fact, I just saw that you had JT O'Sullivan on. He is tremendous. So make sure that you're checking out Krueger's stuff on YouTube. All right, some of the specific battles. What have you seen behind Brock Purdy out of the quarterback situation? And just to explain this to people, if Brock gets hurt long-term, it greatly alters the season. What a backup needs to be able to do is, let's say it's a sprained ankle or a concussion or, it's a couple of games, 2-3 games. Can your quarterback go in a certain stretch, your backup quarterback, and keep you competitive or win those 2 or 3 games? So it looks like Josh Dobbs is a gamer, and we've seen that from his stints on other teams, and he's played against the 49ers. He can run a little bit. He's not going to look great in practice, but he's going to be a gamer during the game. And then you got Brandon Allen, who's looked a little bit smoother. So which quarterback, and there's a couple of things here. There's which quarterback could be the second quarterback, and if they have to release a quarterback, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, who could they slip through? Because I think if Josh Dobbs is cut, Minnesota's picking him up in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, because they lost the rookie for the year, and they had Dobbs last year, and they liked him, and they have Darnold, but they don't really have a backup. Yeah, so that is the question. I mean, there's a couple questions. First of all, we know the QB1 is Brock. So then the question number 2 is who's QB2? Is it Dobbs or is it Allen? If it was based on camp, I'd say it's Allen. If it was based on the games, I would give the nod to Dobbs. But my guess is it will be Allen. And then the question is do you keep 3 quarterbacks on your 53, or is your third quarterback going to be on your practice squad? And the only reason I even bring that up is because the Niners are so incredibly deep at corner with so many good players that it would be a real shame to have to cut loose Sam Womack or Luter or Ambry or, guys who can really play corner in the NFL. I mean, they did this last year with Deshaun Jameson, and then they spent the rest of the season signing, corners off the street. So, and they missed Deshaun Jameson. So I don't know what they're going to do with all the extra corners they have. It does make the roster spots at a premium. It does make you wonder if they will ask that third quarterback to be a practice squad guy. And then I agree with you. I think that if you put Allen through waivers, let's say maybe there's a 85% chance he gets through. If you put Dobbs through waivers, it's maybe more like a 60% chance he gets through. And then Mordecai played really, really well in this last preseason game. He had the play of practice yesterday, a perfect out corner route to Jacob Cowing, and it was just an absolute laser, about 35 yards, put it right on the hand. So he looks good. So, and then the question is, if you put Dobbs and Mordecai, let's say Allen's number 2, and you put Dobbs and Mordecai through waivers, you may wind up with Mordecai as your third guy because Dobbs may get picked off, and he'll just be on the practice squad. So even though they like all 4 guys, there's a lot of different routes that can go behind Brock.
Larry Krueger is joining us. He's going to do it throughout the season, not only on all the shows, but pre- and post-game as well. It's great to have Krug back on KNBR. You mentioned the DBs. Since you did, I want to bring this up because Matty Mayoko was on this morning with the morning show and said the way he's seeing it, and like you said, all this depth on these teams, with these guys and a lot of good young players. But he's seeing obviously Ward on one side, Demo on the other, and then they go to the nickel. He says he thinks Demo is going to go inside, and he thinks Renardo Green over Yadam for the outside spot when Demo goes inside. Is that the way you see it with all this depth here? of Green beating out Yadam for that spot when they go to the nickel?
Well, if you'd asked this question 10 days ago, I probably would have said Yadam. But Yadam's missed a couple weeks now with some injuries, so I think that's kind of put him back. And Renardo Green, John, is just, what you're seeing in the preseason games is what you're seeing in practice every day. He shows up at the ball. He's very competitive at the catch point, whether it be off the turf or in the air. I mean, he's really, really competitive corner. And I do agree with Mayoko. I think it's Mooney and Lenore with Renardo, who's been playing outside a lot in this camp, starting on the outside, and Lenore starting in the nickel. I think Lenore is such a good tackler that I think Lenore is going to be rewarded, by the way, before, let's say, 6 weeks into the season with a new contract. In addition to, once they get beyond Trent and Aiyuk and those issues, I think Lenore is the first guy in line, and they'll extend him. He has been awesome this summer. I mean, he has taken it to another level. He's going to be a fantastic Pro Bowl corner for years.
Larry Krueger is joining us talking Niners, looking ahead to the game tomorrow night, which, by the way, you can hear on 810 The Spread, and Larry will join us as well as the game is in Las Vegas. All right, we've made the people wait long enough. John Lynch was on this morning, did not sound overly optimistic on Aiyuk. Kyle was on yesterday about Trent Williams, and he did sound optimistic for not tomorrow, obviously they're not playing, but for week 1, in which 2 weeks from now the NFL season starts. 2 weeks from now, the 49ers will be putting in the game plan on a Thursday for the Monday night. That Monday nighter at Levi's Stadium against the Jets, do you expect one, both, neither? Who do you expect to be in the huddle to open the game against the Jets among Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk?
I'm hoping for both, but I'm expecting Trent and not Brandon. I think the Brandon thing is literally very volatile. It's day to day. He has not been at practice the last couple of days. It makes you wonder if the negotiations hit a snag. All options are still on the table. The guy, Andrew Filipponi from Pittsburgh, the station there, I had him on the show this week. He's like, hey, I'm predicting Aiyuk to the Steelers on the eve of the season for a second and a third. So he's holding to his prediction that Aiyuk's going to be a Steeler. I'll predict that I think Aiyuk's going to be a Niner, just because I can't imagine that John Lynch is going to get rid of a player for 2025 draft capital solely, and that's going to hurt their chances of winning the Super Bowl in their window. I mean, it makes so little sense that I don't even know where to go with it. It's just, to me, Aiyuk's almost got to be here. If he's not here, there's going to be a lot of criticism from media, from fans. There's going to be guys chirping in the locker room about it. There's going to be a lot of unhappiness, and a lot of pressure is going to drop on John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan's lap, I think, if he's not here.
And the other question that was asked Kyle yesterday with Tolbert and Copes, this is starting to be the question that you have to start asking yourself, because even if he does get signed, how effective can he be? He wasn't in any of the OTAs. It's going to have an effect on his season. I think it would take him a month. There's a reason for training camp. You know it. You've been down there. You've been in the league. You know the business. You've scouted. Spring training, we saw what happened with Blake Snell. NBA isn't as difficult of a preseason. A guy could jump in, but you don't just jump in. I think that Trent Williams can, given what he does. I think it's going to take a while for Brandon Aiyuk. So if he's not there against the Jets on that first Monday night, and you got Debo, you got Kittle, you got McCaffrey, all that kind of stuff, what do they do in Aiyuk's space?
Well, I mean, there's also a very good chance, and I would say a high likelihood at this point, that Ricky Pearsall is not going to be there either. Mm-hmm. So Pearsall has been dinged up all summer. He's got a shoulder. He's not practicing this week. Shanahan said it would probably be another week before he practices. So there's a chance that they could be without Pearsall too. I mean, they have great depth at wide receiver. I mean, Jennings is a starter. He's their third. Debo's having a great camp. Cowing for the last week since he overcame the hamstring pull has just been a revelation. I mean, every day he's dominating in practice. And then they have other guys that they like. I mean, Chris Conley, Tay Martin, Trent Taylor, Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray. I mean, how many of these guys, it will probably just mean that somebody like a Tay Martin gets another week to kind of prove what he's got. But that, I don't anticipate. I mean, today you saw Jahan Dotson got traded from the Commanders to the Eagles. I don't anticipate the Niners bringing a veteran receiver in. If they don't have enough week one, I think they'll go with the contingent of backups that they have right now in camp.
Yeah, and plus I just think because John again was asked this question, well, when's the drop dead date? He said a month ago. There's training camp for a reason, and a lot of guys, a lot of teams. Sean McVay is one of them. They don't play guys in the regular season. Andy Reid does. Whatever you do, but at least you're on the field and you're in camp and you're there every single day. And I know Aiyuk knows Purdy really, really well and knows the offense, but there's changes every single season. And the one thing I want to reiterate to people, and because, again, you were down there for these too, we're talking no OTAs, no training camp. He can't just walk onto the field and be like, yeah, nothing's happened. We still have our continuity. We're good to go. There's a lot of new guys, a lot of new receivers. There's new offensive linemen. There's new wrinkles every year in a Kyle Shanahan offense. He didn't just sit around all offseason and go, yeah, offense is good. He tweaks everything. So there's little things that Brandon Aiyuk, and he can sit in meetings all he wants. He's got to go out and do it. He hasn't gone out since he left that field in Las Vegas. He has not played organized football. He's run routes. He's stayed in shape. He's worked out. He has not played organized football since he left the field in Las Vegas last February. That has to show.
Herm Edwards, who has a million great lines, said the other day, the turf knows when your cleats have not been on it. I was like, what? But it's a funny way of saying it. But it's, it's totally true. It's like nothing replaces actual reps. Nothing replaces actual practice reps or football. You can't replicate football. You can do a million drills. You could be the most, drilled player. You could have this incredible regimen. It doesn't replace getting on the field with NFL caliber athletes and competing. So the big fear here is, soft tissue injuries for Trent or for Brandon. So I think, you gotta have a slow build warm up. You can't, a lot of guys, they're late and all of a sudden it's like, I want to catch up. I want to do everything. I want to put 5 days into one day. Well, that's how you pull a quad or a hammy or a calf or, God forbid, tear one of those muscles. And if you do that, if you're talking about 6, 7, 8 weeks, maybe a season-long injury. So they got to be very, very careful when these guys ultimately get back on the field.
Krueger, John Lynch was joking kind of when he said, what's the absolute drop dead that they could play Monday? And he's like, a month ago. But next week, if they don't come in, and I know Nick did it against the Steelers last year, and he came in week of, and even he said the first month of the season he wasn't himself. We all kind of held his breath when he would go down on the field early in that. I remember in the Steelers game he went down one time. But you got to think, especially in Aiyuk's case, if it's not done, I don't know, we're 2 weeks away from the league opener. We're 2.5 weeks away from the Monday night opener. It's got to be sometime next week, doesn't it? Especially in Aiyuk's case, or even if he gets signed, he can't play or wouldn't play much.
Yeah, I would say you want this thing done by game day, Friday, and even then you're not going to have any preseason at all. So you're going to have to be very, very careful. But, the Niners are in a unique situation because anybody who's taken a perusal of this schedule sees that, from the bye week on, or I should say from, late October on, this stuff gets real. I mean, you got Kansas City, Dallas, road games against Tampa, Green Bay, Buffalo, Seattle, at Miami. You get Detroit at the end of the year. I mean, you better bank some wins early against the New Englands of the league in the first month of the year. You better get off to a hot start. So, and the Jets, Jets are a physical football team. It should be advantage Niners, Jets, Rodgers flying across country, Jets with 3/5 of a new offensive line, taking on a physical team like the Niners. It should be major advantage Niners, but Niners need to get off to a fast start in September because the schedule in October and November gets a lot more daunting.
Krug, before I let you go, the other thing, we were talking about Chris Jones last year, and remember that opener against the Lions on the Thursday night, and he was up in a box, and they lost that game, and then they said, oh, my God, we need Chris Jones back. What people don't realize is, and look, give it up to Patrick Mahomes and that whole team, they had to go on the road for the first time because they did lose some games while Chris Jones was kind of getting up to speed. So it wasn't like Chris Jones came back and he was Chris Jones. Now, he was awesome in the Super Bowl, as he's been against the 49ers a couple of times. That key play that could have won the game for the 49ers, he got in the way of that whole thing. But it took him a while. And conversely, the Chiefs, and they did it, but they had to go on the road for the first time in the playoffs. And to me, if that's the difference, because when the 49ers have gone to the Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan, they were home. Anytime they've had to go on the road, they haven't been able to do it. They lost in the NFC Championship game to the Rams. They lost in the NFC Championship game at Philadelphia. Kyle has always said home field advantage at Levi's Stadium is massive. And my fear is that by these guys holding out, they do lose some early season games, and it costs them in a tight NFC home field advantage in that key game.
And it could be, all the difference in the world, because the margin between the Niners and the Lions, the Niners and the Packers, the Niners and the Eagles is not massive. And if you put that game and make it a road game, it becomes a lot more challenging. I'll say this too: one guy to watch for in this Raider game, they've featured him all week, is Isaac Guerendo. This is going to be the Guerendo game, Johnny. He's been getting tons of carries in practice. I think he's going to get a lot of run. I think this is his opportunity. I think Cody Schrader maybe had a little bit of an edge at some point, but Schrader just looked not quite NFL. And I think if Guerendo has a big game against the Raiders, I think he takes that final running back job from Schrader probably.
All right, one more. I told you one more, but one more. You're great at all this kind of stuff with the rookies and everything. You've been at every day of camp. Pearsall's been hurt, so it's not really fair to talk about him. But, I mean, between Green and Puni, and I know Guerendo has been hurt, but he's coming back, like you said, and he's looked pretty good. And Bethune led him in tackles with 8 in that first game. And, it's looked pretty good as far as this rookie class. You mentioned Cowing. How good do you think this rookie class can be? And people, again, have got to realize that when you're under a financial crunch like the 49ers are going to be, you better hit those mid-rounders again like John and Kyle have done. And it looks like, at least early, outside of Pearsall, who hasn't played, but we liked a lot of things that we saw to him in OTAs and things like that when he was healthy. This looks like it could be another one of those classes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an exciting class. I mean, it really is. I mean, to me, Malik Mustafa as a 4th-round pick. I mean, John, this guy's made some plays in this camp that are just ridiculous. He's a hitter, but he can cover. And, if you're a hitter and you can cover, you can play. I mean, he is big time. So I love what I see from him. I mean, he is just really, really special. And then I kind of think that the Niners got some good offensive linemen in this draft. Kingston's looked good. Nugent graded out really highly in this last game. Puni has been fantastic. And then, there's some other guys beneath the radar that I think can play as well. This kid Klein, the tight end, the 6'8" tight end, is definitely a really good young player. Love what I've seen out of Bethune. I mean, Bethune is just – he didn't make any plays in the first 10 days of camp, and then since that point, he's shows up at the football on every single play. He's got 18 tackles in 2 games, and he doesn't even have a defined roster spot. So, I mean, it's they had a nice draft haul this year. We'll see in time, of course, but it looks good on paper.
All right, Krug, it is always our pleasure. We're looking forward to talking to you about the Niners throughout the season. I know you're going to be on all the shows. You're going to be on all the pre and the post. So, again, for tomorrow night's game, that is on our sister station, 810 The Spread, and then we'll get it back to KNBR. But it's awesome. Tell us again, at Sports Larry K. Make sure that you're following Larry and the Krug Show, which is often. And, by the way, JT O'Sullivan loved it.
Yeah, JT O'Sullivan just taped that this morning. I did a live stream about an hour ago with JT talking about Purdy. He did a video on Purdy. He's got another one coming out on Dobbs. We talked about the 2 of those guys. So good stuff there. And, man, I'm fired up to be back with you guys on game day and the pre and post. And I'm really excited about the year ahead, man.
Can't wait, Krug. It's great to have you back, man, brother. Look forward to talking to a lot of Niners. We did it for many years, so it's great to have you back on. And continued success with the show, man. It's awesome. I check it all the time, of course.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate you, man. We'll see you soon.
All right, see you, Krug. All right, there is Larry Krueger. He's been at every day of camp, and he'll give us great insight. And again, tomorrow night during the pre and the post-game show from Vegas. Pop and I'll be down there in Vegas, and we'll have Krug on the pre and post, and that'll be on 810 The Spread. We'll discuss some of the things that Krug said.